After Inglourious Basterds, Brad Pitt is back for more, re-enlisting with the Allied forces. You're watching Beyond the Trailer's review of Fury.
These troops get by you. We're all dead in the water. All we got is you.
I won't ask you to do anything I haven't done myself.
Comp check.
Photo check.
Birdie check.
Ball check.
Bubble check.
All right! Hit that son of a bitch! Hit it! Do your job! Do what you're here for!
Brad Pitt was used to sell tickets for Inglourious Basterds, but when it came to earning the gold, he wasn't even a part of the discussion. Only when the film's cast was honored as an ensemble did his name even come up. But as we all know, while Pitt just recently won a Best Picture Oscar for 12 Years a Slave, he'd like to win one for his primary profession, acting. But unlike fellow pretty boys Matthew McConaughey or Ben Affleck, Pitt has always made interesting films, so there's no transformation into artiste to wow the Academy. Instead, like another accomplished pretty boy, Leonardo DiCaprio, he finds himself endlessly in search of the recognition and prestige that audiences already give him. But hey, can you blame Pitt or DiCaprio for wanting to make it official? And yes, the Academy loves war movies. Movies about recent wars, not so much, with the exception of The Hurt Locker and maybe American Sniper. But Pitt is playing it safe by going old school with another World War II story. Another World War II story? Yes, but Pitt has found a little explored corner of that storied bit of history, the armored tank. Today, our soldiers are even safer with Predator drones, where they are totally removed from the battlefield. But back during World War II, an armored tank was the most protection the Army, any Army, could afford their soldiers. And despite roughly 20,000 being used by the U.S. Army during World War II, there have only been a handful of movies to feature them, the most notable being Sahara with Humphrey Bogart, Battle of the Bulge with Henry Fonda, and Kelly's Heroes with Clint Eastwood, Donald Sutherland, Telly Savalas, and Don Rickles. And while Brad Pitt is definitely Fury's biggest star, it does feature an impressive ensemble cast, as tanks were not a single-man effort. Percy Jackson's Logan Lerman, who's been flirting with a jump to the big leagues for a while now, The Walking Dead's Jon Bernthal, Michael Pena, who co-starred in writer-director David Ayer's biggest hit to date, End of Watch, and then Shia LaBeouf. We'll see how LaBeouf does on screen, but so far he's dominated the press coverage for Fury with stories about how he refused to shower, pulled out his own tooth, and continuously cut his face for real with a knife throughout production, all in the name of authenticity. But all of LaBeouf's efforts will be for nothing if Ayer, directing his first period piece, can't deliver on his end. So will Fury finally do for tanks what Hollywood has already done for submarines? Or when it comes to the Oscar race, is this pick hopelessly outgunned?
It's so frustrating to watch a movie with so many great elements fail so utterly. This is me watching Fury. This movie is off to a really bad start. Oh, but wait a minute, that is a great action sequence. Tanks are awesome. And hey, the acting's getting pretty good. Oh, but wait, it just totally went off the rails. Goodbye. And it's all David Ayer's fault, and probably also Brad Pitt's, who clearly has Oscar tunnel vision, because Fury knows where it wants to go. Logic and good storytelling be damned. And the real problem with this movie really is Brad Pitt's character, for two reasons. The first is he makes a big promise to his men that he's going to keep them alive, and they make a very big point of showing that this promise means so much to him personally. Yet clearly, without having too many spoilers here, killing Germans is more important to him than keeping his troops alive. So I don't understand why the first promise was made, and if they were going to make that first promise about keeping them alive, why not show more of the internal conflict with Brad Pitt between these two priorities he clearly has, which is keeping his troops alive, his team, and killing Germans. Now, as for the killing Germans bit, that's never explained, even though he's clearly obsessed with killing Germans. They make quite an effort to show that. For instance, in the camp, when they're going to question that SS officer and Brad Pitt just loses his cool over the whole thing. And, you know, Logan Lerman's character, they make quite a point in breaking him and showing how he comes to hate Germans, and that's done effectively, although Logan Lerman, at the end of the movie, you discover really hasn't changed at all. I don't want to give a spoiler away, but his character ends up almost in the exact same place in terms of his stance with war as he did at the beginning of the movie. But with Brad Pitt's character, they don't show why it's so personal with him, so intensely personal to kill Germans. I suspect it has something to do with why his character speaks perfect German, or at least it should have something to do with that. But I suspect the reason that David Ayer doesn't show why Brad Pitt hates Germans so much is because he couldn't come up with a cool enough reason, and that's why he doesn't include it. It's the only reason I can think of, because including a sequence at the beginning of the film or having a flashback would have exponentially improved this movie. But instead, by not showing Brad Pitt, what causes him to hate Germans so much, the Nazis in particular, it robs Brad Pitt's character of his motivation, it robs him of our sympathies, and it most likely will rob Brad Pitt of the Oscar nomination he clearly wants so badly. And I think someone could argue, oh, well, isn't it cool to not know why he dislikes Germans so much? Don't you appreciate the mystery? And I would say, if you're going to go the mystery route, which I think would be a mistake, even it's not compellingly etched out, nor are the conflicts between what Brad Pitt is saying and what he's doing. Largely that he says it's just their job to kill Germans, but again, it's clearly deeply personal for his character. Now, those are the problems with the movie that I think are, fatal to the film. But there's still a lot of good things. As I said, there are great elements here that just totally are wasted. It's Brad Pitt and Logan Lerman's film, and they both do a very good job, but I was impressed with how Michael Pena, Shia LaBeouf, and Jon Bernthal were able to stand out with very little screen time, actually. I also like what the movie has to say about war. I think that was a very fresh take on it, and I think surprisingly, at least to my knowledge, I haven't seen any other Hollywood movies about war look at it from this perspective, of what soldiers are there to do and what the mentality is. And I think it was done quite effectively. I was really, really impressed. It was like showing the band of brothers that have become so famous, but taking all the romance out of it, but still leaving the importance of that bond. And I really appreciated that. I also liked what it had to say about tank warfare. I thought it was really, the action sequences were viscerally exciting. I loved the tracer rounds, the way that was used, and it piqued my interest in tanks. And in that regard, I wish that the film told you more about how tanks operated. I mean, you can pick it up a little bit, but with Logan Lerman's character joining the crew, it was the perfect opportunity, and he never went to tank school. It was the perfect opportunity to give us a quick lesson in tanks. And I also would like to have known a little bit more about tank warfare, which I also thought seemed pretty interesting and something I'm not familiar with. So I think the movie succeeded in that regard. The movie does succeed in a lot of areas, and particularly the middle section. So I think you should see Fury at some point because of that middle section and what it has to say about war and some of the performances and the action sequences and good introduction to tanks. And only an introduction, unfortunately, though. But because of the beginning of the movie and the end of the movie, and the beginning, by the way, just plays like bad theater. Everyone's speaking their emotions. I was really nervous for what I was going to have to sit through for the next 2 hours or so. But I would say because of the middle section, it's worth seeing. But because of the beginning and the end, it's not worth seeing in theaters. I can't recommend you see it in theaters. It's your call, really. You might argue it needs the big screen because of the kind of film it is, but then go for a matinee. Save as much money as you can on this. So that's my review of Fury. What do you think? Did the waste of good elements make you furious as well? Or did you like the way everything came together? Please share your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for tuning into my review, and you can check out some more episodes right now.